Alrighty. So just a bit of a blurb about me. Just been around a bit and done a few things. Not going to spend too much time on this, but I have been a bit overseas and working locally and working overseas, living overseas. Tried to learn a few languages and failed epically, and been around in the hobby for a while. Just confirming, Justin, you've seen the big Who Am I screen?
Yep.
All right. Okay. Cool. All right. So at the moment, I did start off in the early days when in amateur radio, when they dropped the the Morse requirement for HF, and got licensed, appealed all my myriad of academic qualifications, and did the regs and got a limited call, and then discovered, oh, HF's pretty boring, and then I moved into microwaves. So I didn't really actually need an advanced license after all that. So I could have got earlier. So my current interests with microwaves, a bit of ATV and some APRS, although time pressures with my work at the moment has put a lid on a lot of my amateur activities. But I do like going portable. Not sure if I like going portable in the snow like you guys do. So is Tricky there tonight?
No. Yeah.
Oh, there he is. Yeah, I still remember your blue truck in that snow from Mount Wellington. That's not my thing. So a bit of history about the WIA. So what I thought tonight is just go through a bit of history what the WIA is all about, what the Institute does for the hobby in general and for their members, and also for affiliated clubs, and also a bit of the work that the Institute does with their volunteers internationally as well as locally. So just a bit of a background on the Institute. We're the oldest amateur radio representative body. So we beat the AWIL by about 6 months. So we beat the Yanks by 6 months. They love to hear that sort of stuff. So originally formed in VK2. We had lots of state divisions formed with a fairly weak federal council, and Michael Owen decided, well, that's a bit silly. And the state divisions were dissolved, and the new national WA was formed in 2003, 2004. Whereas some of the bigger divisions coalesced into bigger clubs, and then hence we've got AO New South Wales and AO Vic with lots of resources, lots of repeaters and stuff. Just a quick bit of a background. The structure of the Institute, it's a private company, limited in guarantee, but it is a company, but it's not for profit, so we don't pay tax, but we don't. All the volunteers don't get paid. There's only one employee, that's Bruce Defaults in the Bayswater office in Melbourne. And the managing board consists of 7 unpaid directors. We have elections every year. For first 1 year be 3 directors, the next year be 4 directors, and we internally elect the president and vice president in the meeting, electing directly after the AGM. So you may notice that sometimes there's not an election. That's because we don't get enough nominations. So if you'd like to have elections and want to vote for your favourite director, then consider nominating or nominate someone else. Don't nominate Justin. I'm pretty sure he's done his time. The other thing is the Institute does consist of volunteers, many other volunteers, and we live and die by our volunteers. Without the great work of all the volunteers, we wouldn't have a Wireless Institute of Australia. So long history, lots of roles and stuff like that. I'm going to burn through this pretty quick, but if anyone's got any questions, please interject. I don't mind answering questions during the preso, but I'll try and burn through these slides as quickly as I can and go over a few important things. So the main thing we're doing at the moment, the main thing that we reformed at the moment is the Education Committee. And they've just produced just last week a revised foundation syllabus, and they're now working on the standard and advanced syllabus, because probably for those who have done the exams recently, you probably noticed there's a bit of legacy stuff in there. Probably shouldn't be in there. It hasn't really caught up with the changing, introducing the digital modes and we don't really use vacuum tubes all that much. So just 2 examples of what needed to be updated. So we're hopeful that the ACMA will listen to us and take on our ideas for the reform syllabus. I'll go into that role a little bit later on. So the Education Committee consists of some very, very highly skilled people. They're career educators and know how to write lesson plans and assessments and course syllabus and stuff. So we're very, very lucky to have them on board. One of the main things we offer for clubs is support through the affiliation scheme. So the public liability insurance scheme, which I think that's all squared away now. Hopefully Hayden, with your club. The difficult thing we had was managing the expectations about what the insurance scheme provided in terms of what public liability is all about. The other thing we offer to clubs is free half-page AR magazine ad per year for your events. So I know that Reece took advantage of that when you had the convention in November last year, which was great, by the way. I was looking forward to the next one. I'll come down again for that. That was awesome. Plus the WIA website contact info. So through Angelo, he's a great support for clubs. Please get in touch with him if you need anything. So some of the other committees that are involved, formed at the moment, is the education I just talked about, the Spectrum Advisory Committee. So they're probably the most important right now because they're helping us with some responses to the ACMA and also in preparation for the WRC in Dubai in November this year. There's a contesting committee run by Shano, so they try and coordinate all the contests, make sure they don't trip over each other, and arrange all the scoring systems are working. And I think there's a bit of work in progress still with the VHF, UHF field day, but they're getting there. Not really in existence right now, but what I do want to get up fairly quickly is the IT group to look after the back-end systems and reform the websites. The website's sorely in need of an update. I've found a provider, but I've had not the time to spend time with them to get it going. So looking for a volunteer or two to help me there. Finance, PubCom. We all know PubCom. That's produces the magazine every 2 months. And I'm also now in the process of reaching out and getting some people who know something about social media to help us produce some great content. The idea is to increase our digital footprint, because at the moment it isn't all that great. Things like YouTube and TikTok and Snapchat are great tools for promotions and for communicating your activities. So I'd like to get the WA footprint much larger. But again, it takes volunteers. I don't have time to do it all the time. The other membership benefits, repeater, or also club benefits as well, I should say, is repeater and beacon frequency assignments. And I can't say I'm having a very good experience with that right now. I've applied for a repeater, D-Star repeater in Brisbane. It's taking a little bit longer than I expected, but I'm working out why that's the case. And I don't think I need to dwell on that too much, Mr. Honeywood, do I? So I think he had a similar sort of experience a little while ago. We're trying to harmonise the band plans across the region so that the HF people are operating in the same place, depending on the mode you're operating on. Advocating for Spectrum, constantly defending the Spectrum, our amateur Spectrum. Discount card. So the discount card is available to download via Memnet. So go to your local JCar. You don't have an electronics in Hobart, do you? For a JCar, they'll give you an easy 10-15% discount with the card. And the QSL Bureau, which is probably the most underrated agency we've got. I've got a couple of keen volunteers throughout the country. I presume you've got an Inwards QSL manager in the club or nearby. Do you know about?
Yep.
Yep. So one thing we are noticing is that sometimes a de-expedition will try and use the Outwards Bureau for about 3,000 cards, and we don't think that's quite fair. But anyway, we're working on that. So it's just free to members to use the QSL Bureau. So international advocacy mainly rests with three things. It's the international telecom, the ITU, WRC, IARU, always trip up over those words. So the International Amateur Radio Union, World Radio Conference, and the International Telecommunications Union. So the ITU is a pretty huge organisation headquartered in Geneva, and their charter is, a few words there, but basically it's trying to making sure that everybody in the world has access to the spectrum they need to use. And ergo, mobile phone networks are one, citizen band radio, TV, radio, broadcast radio. That's their charter. And the ITU will convene a World Radio Conference every 3 to 4 years. And they talk about, they're trying, what the intent of these things is to coordinate or advocate for common spectrum use throughout the world. And that includes the amateur service. Now, the ITU doesn't have any influence on federal governments. All they can do is recommend. And so the delegates from each country's regulator, so in our case, that's the ACMA or the ACMA, they'll have delegates there, the Department of Communications, and the WIA sending 2 delegates to the next World WRC 2023 and held in Dubai in November. So you can probably imagine for 3 weeks sending 2 people over there, that's quite a bit of money. But we need to be there at the table to advocate for defence of our spectrum. A few little topics I'll talk about later, what's happening in the WIC this year. And the other big organisation is the International Amateur Radio Union. There's 3 main organisations, Region 1, Region 2, Region 3, and we're in Region 3. And our reps in this union for the region are Oscar Rees, VK3TX, and Grant Willis, VK5GR, both very highly skilled people experienced in international representation. And they're there representing us, Australian amateurs, in the national sphere, making sure that Australia's interests are well represented in the region. So quite well represented. But again, if we have to send these guys to Japan or the Philippines or Thailand where they're going to have their meetings, it's expensive. Luckily, we've been getting away with a bit of Zoom and Teams lately, thanks to COVID. And we're also constantly talking to our partner societies overseas, NZART, I should say, in NZL land, AWL and in the USA, RSGB in the UK, SART Singapore, and MART, which is Malaysia. There's a number of other organisations we're constantly talking to. I'll just put a few up there on the screen that I can remember. But we're always trying to advocate for amateur spectrum and a coordinated response across the regions. And so representation, well, it's drilling down to a number of things. I've talked about a few of them already. But the main ones we've got are the AMC, and I think we can't miss the news at the moment what's happening with the AMC and the Amateur Assessment Service. The ACMA, our regulator, they're our policeman, our spectrum regulator. And then we've got the WIC 2023 in Dubai, and we're sending Dale Hughes, VK1 DSH, and Peter VK4EA, VK2 EMR. I'm not sure if anybody's met Dale and Peter, but they're very, very well experienced, highly respected people in this field. Dale is actually paid by the ITU and the IARU, International Radio Union, to be chairing a number of committees in the world stage. So very highly respected individual. So we're lucky in that Dale's spot's been funded by the IARU, and we're going to fund Peter VK4EA for 3 weeks in Dubai. And additionally, the prep session, which is going to be held in this month in Brisbane at the Sofitel Hotel, Dale and Peter will be there, and I've managed to get in there as an observer as well to represent the board. So I'm very much looking forward to that, taking a week off work to go and have a look, see what happens. And the 2 hot topics for us at this WIC is 23 SEMS and 9 centimetres. So 23 SEMS is under threat at the moment, so I'll talk about that a little bit later. We all love and UTAS, someone's employer in the room there. So Australian Maritime College, headquartered in Launceston. They currently maintain our call sign management system, the exams, assessment, assessors, but they've elected not to renew the deed in February 2024, and the ACMA taking over. So I've had to change this slot a little bit because it was quite a surprise for us a few months ago to learn that they weren't going to renew the deed. Got a few theories about that. So the AMC exit, and the ACMA is back. The ACMA is back. So as far as we know, is they're going to take over the assessor accreditation and management, production of exams, question banks, maintenance, the syllabi, back to them for course line management. But the big change for us assessors, and I'm quite pleased about this, is that we get to mark the exams again in front of not in front of the candidate, but we can tell the candidate pretty much straight away whether they've got through or not. I really like that part of the assessing. That's great. Yeah. And as far as we know, the practical is going to be retained, but that's all we know at the moment. The ACMA promised to consult with us in August. To catch yourself, it is August now. As Justin rightly observed, July went zooming right past. So keep an eye out for the course of consultation. You can respond as individuals, respond as a club, and certainly your opinions and views are most welcome to the board. And who are the ACMA? Who's the Australian Communications and Media Authority? Well, the regulator, not the lawmaker. That's what the politicians do. But they do manage the register of radio licenses, and it seems like they're going to continue to maintain that. and they enforce using the license condition determination, the LCD. So the other change that's happened in the last few years, which people may not be aware of, is that they don't do much frequency assignment anymore. They're palmed that out to authorised persons or APs, and they will allocate frequencies and have access directly to the Spectra frequency management system, and they charge commercial rates for that, so up to $600 per frequency. Yep. So for repeater, that's $1,200 if you want to pay full commercial rates per site. But we're lucky we've got a few APs in our back pocket that will do it on purely on a cost recovery basis. So that's about $220 to $230 per frequency. So still not free. You can still ask ASMA to assign for you, but you've got to be prepared to wait 12 to 18 months until I get to it. It's very, very low priority. And we are constantly meeting with the ACMA in Melbourne. They're headquartered in Melbourne. So we're lucky that we've got Peter VK4EA, who was a former commissioner, deputy commissioner for the ACMA, very highly respected with the ACMA, still into his retirement. And he and Lee Moyle and Scott Williams, the president, will meet with the ACMA at least every 6 to 8 weeks. So we're very, very lucky to have that very good relationship with them. Who's a standard call in the room?
Yep.
Probably can't see your hands, but for some there, that's
Yep.
congratulations. You've finally got parity.
Yay.
So I can change this slide now into canvassing views with a standards get license. Well, you've got it. So use it, please use it. So we finally got through it. I think I was talking to Roger Harrison the other day, and he said he's been fighting for this for 20 to 25 years for standards to finally get parity with advanced. So that's a good outcome for us, really good outcome. And I'm presuming that everyone wants more power, more than their 400 watts PEP for advanced or 120 watts for standard. So for advanced licenses, we're canvassing for a 1 kW PEP. Now, the Spectrum Group have done a number of responses to the ACMA about how this is going to happen. We haven't got any solid response, or the only response we got from is that we are considering it. But the feedback we get unofficially is that it's looking pretty good. The high power permits are still being considered. So you won't automatically get 1 kW. You still have to do a site assessment as far as we know. So please pay attention to the rules they're going to put down and understand the EME. And it's not earth bounce tricky. That's the EMR requirements, the exposure requirements. So we did, the hobby didn't do very well in the last 1 kW trial. And a lot of amateurs just ignored those requirements and thought they knew better. Please do the assessment if it's asked for, and do it properly and be truthful.
Can I just ask a question as one of the standards in the room? Are there any thoughts around getting standardable power at all? Or?
Not at this stage. We're trying to get this 1 kW first, and then we're going to start working on standards.
Cool. Thank you.
Yep. So, and the other big topic, of course, is the class license. So effectively what that means, and we had some questions, and there's a little bit of clarification coming out, sort of unofficially at the moment, in that, yes, they will manage the call signs. There will be a certificate of proficiency and some sort of evidence of a license, so that when you're traveling and you want to prove that you've got a reciprocal, if you want to operate in the US for the 3 months, or the UK or parts of Europe, many other countries offer a reciprocal, a temporary reciprocal, but you've got to have a HARAC compliant license. The proof of that, the New Zealanders have worked out a way to do it. The Yanks have been doing it for years, so I don't think it's too difficult. As far as you know, the cost is going to be zero, and we've been given assurances that even though it's a zero cost license like UHFCB or your marine license, or if you've got an aircraft, your airband radio, it doesn't cost anything to license. It's part of your registration, your boat or your aircraft. They still will play the policeman or the police person in the bands. So the enforcement still be there. They still are the policemen of the bands. Doesn't mean that we're the policemen, so we can't go rocking into someone's house and confiscate radios and stuff like that. That's not what we can do. But there is a certain expectation of self-regulation. So encourage people to do the right thing, mentor people, set a good example. Certainly, the issue we have in the amateur service, compared to airband or the police, P25 service or any emergency services or GPS, in that if those services are interfered with, they're going to get priority. That's because it's, safety or, lives in danger and stuff like that. So you have to put in perspective in that somebody button pushing on a 2-meter repeater for a couple of hours or playing music is not going to get a lot of attention from the ACMA, as you know. But we still have an assurances that they will still enforce and regulate. So, but again, that's all we know. There's promise to consult. So they're looking like they're going to implement the class license at the same time as when the deed for the AMC expires. So that's looking like February next year at this stage. And we've been assured that anybody pays a license later this year, they're going to get a partial refund, pro rata. And open up for questions and general chit chat. So I just wanted to reinforce the threat to 23 centimeters is real in Europe. So there's a navigation company putting up a new satellite constellation that want to use 23 centimeters for their primary transmissions from the satellites. They see 23 centimeters diameter as an interference potential for them. So they're advocating for primary access to that band particularly in Europe at this stage, but it's going to be a global system. So we're going to be fighting for that. So it is an agenda item in the prep session this month. So they're going to, and I saw it there and I was quite excited about basically the whole conference is going to be considering the Australian position for amateurs having secondary access to 23 centimeters. And if you've been seeing the New Zealanders, the ZLs have lost all of the 9 centimeter band, every single bit of it, not even a small sliver for EME or for cross Tasman records. Damn you, Tricky and Hayden.
We don't hold it. Yeah, we don't.
Don't you?
Scott.
Is it Scott? Is it?
Scott's got it.
Oh, damn it!
That makes you even more.
Yeah, so you guys can't get it. Oh well, what a shame.
Okay, we'll just get the RG.
So it's a bit shit. So this is a bit of 9 centimeter gear for sale in ZL at the moment. So it's a real tragedy because I think that band had a bit more to go, I think, in terms of setting records and extending it and stuff. And we're having a bit of fun with it here, but we've got an exclusion zone now for 3.4 and above because of our national, the NBN fixed wireless links now have for all of the East Coast, most of Tasmania, and for the South Coast up to the South Australian border is completely forbidden to use above 3.4 gigs now. But we still have 3.3 to 3.4, so we still can use 3398 for terrestrial stuff. And I haven't got in. I know there's one guy here in Birkdale, Trevor VK4EA is very successful on 3.4 EME. It'd be tragic for him after all that investment, and effort and tuning to lose access to that. So we'll be fighting to keep at least 3398, at least half a meg. Only need 200 kilo. You only need 200K really for us. Like, how often are we actually on 3.4 for terrestrial contact? We can fit. So I'm going to be doing my best to get that on the agenda. It may not be on the agenda this time, but I'll talk to Dale and Peter and see if we can get that raised as a defence for at least part of the band. It's just unfortunate, the commercial interests for these bits of spectrum are very, very, very high, and they've got very deep pockets, and we just can't. The business case isn't there sometimes when you look at it from a strict commercial sense. However, the ITU and all the members of the ITU recognise that the amateur service is valuable from an experimentation point of view, also from a social point of view. Radio experimentation is recognised as being a great activity, and we just need to keep pushing the boundaries, I think, and keep access to our spectrum.
There's at least 10 to 20 people down here, Peter, who is on 3.3398. So there's a good bit of activity down here.
Yeah, so if you guys are supportive of us going and fighting for 3398 and 339, yeah, well, it's definitely on because it's one of my favourite bands. I'm waiting for an SG Labs transverter to complement my portable setup, which will be going on my little arrangement back here, which you can see the not 905, Justin.
What as a club and as members and just amateurs in general, what's what do we need to look out for when, you know, you're advocating for this, when you want input from like members and from just the amateur communities? Is that something that the WIA will put forward so that we can, you know, have a say on it?
So we tried a number of things with like a form letter, like a form email to go to the ACMA when they asked for consultation. So basically you just took the form email and changed it to Dear ACMA and then signed it John Smith, VK something. They recognise that as just being a spam, and what they appreciate more is a more cohesive response from a group of people rather than lots of individual responses that are the same. They appreciate the fact that there's a bit of support for it. So I think a well-considered, well put-together response to the request for consultation is always a good idea. Mind you, I do have a good go at wording it properly because I've seen some responses and some stuff go back to the ACMA and I'm going, oh boy, should have put your Chromes away, boy. So I think that's pretty much it, Hayden, is to get together as a club and as individuals and express your views to the board or to Grant Willis, the people, Peter Young, VK4EA, about what you think is best, what you would like to see in the hobby and in our spectrum allocations. It's a bit difficult when and also we will be running surveys for members, or not just for members, for amateur radio participants to canvass their views. And I'm of a firm opinion that we don't limit it to WI members, that we should be asking the whole cohort to respond with their views. And there may well be a survey too coming out this year. So there's a couple of different ways.
One thing I've also noticed is that the ACMA seem very open to consultation with the amateur community. They've been doing the bulletins and the emails and the submissions for people to actually submit. So they're very much at the moment still listening and willing to listen.
They do. Yeah, you're right. They have been very good with their communications. Thankfully, the Communications Authority. They've got to be seen to be consulting with everybody, which is why everyone gets a voice, no matter what organisation, what club, what organisation, what representative body. So it includes RASA and WI. They'll listen to them equally. They have to. They can't be seen to be playing favourites. But yeah, I think you're right. They have increased their communication quite well. Like the amateur bulletin that they send out every month or so is fantastic. You know, luckily we get a bit of a heads up, like a few days beforehand. They'll talk to us and say, "What do you think?" And we go, "Yeah, that's great." We're not going to say no for them to talk to us.
And Peter, the webinar with the assessors, I thought was really positive. I think it was a really positive vibe that come out of that particular webinar, which I thought was good.
Yeah, unfortunately, I couldn't participate because I wasn't invited because I'm not on the public list. But I did hear good things about it. The other thing coming up before I forget is on the 27th of September for presidents and secretaries, we're going to run another intro session. I didn't word the Facebook post very, very well. Thanks, Hayden. But we got to keep our lines of communications open with the clubs. So like we did with the insurance briefing, just have a general chit chat, whinge bitch, whatever, about stuff that's the club thinks is important that the board should be addressing. So you mark that in your diaries.
Can I just quickly ask a question about you said with the 23 cent ban? Are they? I mean, there's quite a few of us down that use 23 cent. Are they looking to grab the whole of the band, or is there a chance we'd be able to keep at least a couple of magnitudes on it just so we can use it, or what's the go with that?
We don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll find out. Latest we'll find it. The earliest we'll probably find out is November about what they're proposing. You might remember a couple of years ago, the French had a bit of a tilt at 144 megs, the 2 meter band in Europe. And we think this is related. It's the same company might be trying to grab a bit of spectrum for their radio location service. But that's just pure speculation.
Peter, with respect to the 1 kilowatt licensing, how would the transition to a scientific license impact on the amateur service?
Well, badly. Scientific license doesn't. Your amateur license is not your scientific license. So if you're using high power under scientific license, you don't use your amateur call sign for a start. And two, that it doesn't really fit into what a scientific license is all about. So we strongly opposed it, and I should change that slide. It's been discounted now as an option. I think the ACMA saw it as an easy way out to assign a high power permit for HF. You just apply for a scientific license. Now, if you would apply for a scientific license now, it's quite expensive. So people only really do it as part of their work, so they can justify the expense. But we don't really think it fits in the amateur service at all.
I've got a couple of questions, Peter. The first one is, we've seen overseas quite a big success, especially over the COVID period, with this, but will the WIA be lobbying with the ACMA when you go to them again for easier, more accessible amateur exams to be done remotely, online?
Yeah, absolutely. The remote assessments and the assisted assessments are an absolute must-have. I can't see a more equitable way of doing it without having the remote option and all the assisted option as well. I did my marine license last weekend on Saturday, and they were great. Like, they're AMC assessors like we are in the amateur service. And there's a guy there who's dyslexic, so he spent another room and had the exam read to him. And that sort of stuff's got to happen. We've got to be more inclusive with this sort of stuff and make sure it's not that any sort of thing that shouldn't stop a person getting a license, reading difficulties, sight, hearing, whatever, mobility, access, location, all that shouldn't be a barrier. Absolutely not.
Well, as a teacher, it falls under, like I said, it's under reasonable adjustment, which we should be making in any case. So,
yeah, I'm firm advocate for making it accessible as possible.
Yeah,
and I tell you, the VEA do a great job with that too. That's the Volunteer Examiner Australia organisation. They do remote assisted examinations for the US and Australian system. So they're all level 2 assessors and stuff like that. So they can do all that. And they'll run Teams Zoom sessions all Saturday to do that.
I did my US exam through VEA first, and then I did it through GLARG, Greater Los Angeles Radio Group, and they both used the same system, which was exam tools and ham study, and you get it graded straight away. And
it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's submitted into the system, and like 1 business day, 2 business days later, you're on the end.
Yeah, I've done a few of those assessments with Peter Dernicus on a Saturday afternoon while he's smoking cigarettes and I'm drinking beer, and it's very, very satisfying, and it's very, very slick, and it's the UK have a similar sort of system as well, and so we're looking at leveraging off that, but it's all a bit up in the air because the ACMA will be driving that the back end for all that if they do decide to do that sort of stuff. I hope they do. We'll certainly be advocating for it because I think it's a very accessible way for people to do it. People who may not be able to go for a drive might be a couple of hours away from the nearest amateur radio club or assessor. Fantastic. Certainly in my state, it's huge. Like, it takes 3 days to cross it sometimes. So,
and my second question was, obviously, apart from tonight, what's the WIA doing to actively try and recruit new members? Because obviously being a member of the WIA is incredibly important, as you've outlined. So I just wondered what kind of initiatives are being done and planned to be done.
Yeah, not too much, Hayden, unfortunately. I'm just, my personal approach is to I've been trying to see as many of my local clubs as possible within a couple of hours drive from my house. Sessions like this, where coming to Hobart for the night's a bit out of the question, but I was desperately trying to make it work, but it's a bit cold down there at the moment.
Softy. It was pretty warm today, actually. And tomorrow.
It's 18 tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I think, but it is it's recruitment's difficult for an institute like this because first you really got to be in the hobby first, and then do you have club involvement? Then people don't get involved with some clubs, and then there's people who've got a beef with the WA that happened 30 years ago. They've still got a beef with the organisation, even though it was in history. We have competing organisations which have damaged the reputation of everybody, and it's proving quite difficult to recover from that. Now I don't need to explain that to Justin. He was right in the thick of it. So we're still actively encouraging people to join, but I'm not here as a direct sell session. I'm not a salesperson. I'm not going to coerce people to join and come join the cult and drink the Kool-Aid. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to try and explain what we do, how we advocate, and that we need support. And the best way to do that is financial. Buy some merch. Go to Handfest. Support your club. Get out there, do YOTA activities.
You got merch.
Yeah, we've got some merch.
Are we going to get shirts and
Yeah, all that's in the web store. Yeah.
Oh, sweet. We've got merch to our club, don't we? Yeah.
Cool merch.
Cool merch.
Cool merch. I'll have to look at that. Where is it?
We got hoodies to keep you warm in the winter.
Oh, that's just what I need up here.
Just send you a mug then.
Branded Doonas. Yeah.
Yeah, do it live. No,
I'll make sure I wear it when I come to Tasmania. Has it? The other thing I should remember too, for those who are so inclined, in May next year in 2024. Yeah, that's right. When's our AGM? Yeah, May. Sometime this year. Oh, now I'm getting confused. Bundaberg is our next AGM. Let me look it up.
Rum.
Yeah, yeah. Rum and turtles. Well, that's what I say. Bundaberg. So those who have not been to Bundaberg, it's a beautiful little town, and just off the side of it is a little national park where turtles lay eggs, and Bundy Club don't have anything up in there, but keep an eye out anyway, because yeah, great little spot. It's about 4.5, 5 hours drive north of Brisbane, or on the tilt train for half a day, or a short flight. But yeah, we'll be going up there for the weekend, having the AGM on the Saturday afternoon, and or Saturday, and info session, and then Bundaberg Club will be running something on the Sunday, we hope. But it's quite cool how that worked out, because Peter VK4EA, our secretary, was a local government councillor in not Darwin. What's the town across the bay? I can't remember it. No.
The other side of the bay.
Outside the bay, yeah, where those madmen drove that cruiser from, under the bay. And they he went to a conference in Canberra, for local government conference, and had a couple of beers with the Bundaberg mayor and got talking, and the mayor said, "Oh, we'll do something with that." Just happened. So yeah, councillor and board, local radio club and board, the Bundaberg Club are great. So it should be a great event. I know it's a long way to travel from Hobart, but if you're in the area, drop in.
Get the shorts out.
You've always got the shorts.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say again, I really enjoyed my time in Hobart when you guys did run that convention. That was great, and hosted the AGM. That was fantastic.
And post again next year, do you reckon?
We don't.
Maybe not the AGM, but certainly the
Handfest.
Handfest was, yeah. The technical talks for me are the highlight. I miss Skip's Tech, so it'd be good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we've got JDS, 2 JDS here as well, Peter. So.
Oh, Mr. Microwave.
Yes,
Oh,
exactly.
Look what I got, Dave.
Yeah.
Dave won't be happy because I didn't make it myself. He makes everything himself.
Sorry, the signal's breaking up really badly now.
Yeah.
You can't see in the room at the moment. We've got just to let you know, we've got about 23 people here tonight.
Oh, nice. Yeah, good turnout.
Yeah,
and we've got 11 on the stream. So yeah.
So no other Queenslanders there?
Maybe originally.
Ex-Queensland.
Yeah.
No, okay. Because Graham Kemp threatened to be down there tonight, so I had to keep it quiet.
Huh.
Yeah. He's in town apparently. So.
Yeah. Well, he sent me a cryptic message. That's what it was about.
Yeah.
Probably couldn't send it.
Yeah, he needs to stay in his hotel.
It's too cold. I live at Jimboomba though. It's a bit cold hole out there. Well, that's all for me. I've got nothing other to bore you guys about. So again, thank you for the opportunity to present, and certainly we're very open to any feedback you guys have individually. My email address is very easy to remember. It's just my call sign at wia.org.au. Or there's the board one as well, which Hayden has. You can flip that around. I've got no issue with that.
Outcome in the United Kingdom are about to give a kilowatt to the UK amateurs, do you think that will affect what we do over here?
Absolutely. And that's exactly why we're pushing it now. The timing could not be better. So the sad fact is that the ACMA do look to other regulators. So they do observe what Ofcom are doing, and they do observe what the FCC are doing. And they do take a lot on with that. So without the RSGB and Ofcom introducing the foundation license, I don't think Australia would have that either. And that's probably been the single most wonderful innovation that we've done in the last 20 years, is introduce the foundation license. And that was off the back of what happened in the UK.
And New Zealand's got 1 kilowatt too. So
yeah, they're only a single class of license, which I'm not all that fussed about, but they seem to like it. So,
Any final questions for Peter?
Just trying to understand the 1 kilowatt. So what can you use 1 kilowatt for? Is that just for EMA, or can you use it for other things?
no, they're looking for HF.
Oh,
Yeah.
HF and 6.
peak envelope down, not
Yeah, so and 6 meters too. So
Is that
But-
is there look at increasing the 120 watts PY as well?
there'll be whatever that commensurate ratio, I guess, Hayden.
Because we've got 400 watts PX and 120 watts PY.
Yeah, so you just have to do the root mean squared calculations in 1 kilowatt to work out what your carrier would be, equivalent carrier. But yeah, that would go in hand. I think that makes sense. So a bit more oomph in FM and AM if you want, all digital. Yeah, so you can still apply for your high power permits for 6 and 2 meters and 70 cents for EME. That's still an option. And a few people I know have high power permits for EME, not for terrestrial. But this 1 kilowatt is for terrestrial.
Okay.
It's intended for a terrestrial, but you have to do your site surveys. No, I don't think I'd ever get a permission to use 1 kilowatt from my house, because I live in 400 square meters and close to the center of the city, and my beam would pretty much point to people's kitchens. So
Oh, they wouldn't need a microwave then.
What would happen with like portable operations as well? Would that be like a separate evaluation that would need to be done?
well, technically, every site you have needs an assessment. So yeah, I think so. But again, I don't know what that's going to look like. We really don't know. But I think that's just a bit of common sense. Like we do that when our field days, we make sure that we've got some exclusion zones around our dish when we're running our minuscule bits of power on microwave. But you've still got to be conscious of people walking in front of your antennas or tripping over guy wires and humming generators and stuff. So I think that just be a bit of common sense.